Let's log into Adobe and welcome Kate Brightwell.
Hi everyone, thanks for the opportunity to come and speak to you today. I'm here to talk about the Content Authenticity Initiative, which is something that Adobe set up a couple of years ago. So let's think about why we're here and why this is such an important issue. If you think about the advances in AI, and I think if you even think about the R&D discussion this morning, how content is being created now and the use of AI makes the ability to create sophisticated content and be able to edit it. We even saw it in the skewer clip earlier. And that comes with some responsibility about how to use the technology and how content creators have to think about the use of these advances. But the intent to deceive is also increasing. So we sort of started this discussion talking about fake news. You know, the ideas of mis and disinformation and people having a lack of trust in media is really become prevalent over the last few years. And this real lack of transparency, trust, and attribution. So if you think about mis and disinformation and how it's traditionally been tackled, it's through detection. And so this is using AI technology to try and detect AI to determine whether it's fake and to take it off different media channels. And traditionally, this has been the way that sort of technology companies have looked at this. Now, in 2020, there was something called the Deepfakes Challenge, where they got the most sophisticated AI to try and detect the most sophisticated deceptive AI. And really, this only had a hit rate of about 65%. So that means really that quite a lot of content is not being caught. And it's a real arms race between how the AI is getting more and more sophisticated. So at Adobe, we kind of sat down and thought, is there a better way in which we can address this issue? Is there a better way that we can try and install trust in the content that we're consuming and empower users? So this is why we set up the Content Authenticity Initiative, or the CAI. And this is essentially a group of organizations, businesses, individuals that are committed to providing an open, extensible solution to putting provenance in media content. And this is really advocating for an open technical standard, which we'll go into in a bit more detail. And this was really a concept of if consumers could see objective facts about the content that they're viewing, listening to, about who created it, how it had been changed, who was publishing that, it really empowers those that are consuming this media to think whether or not to trust it. So this isn't saying that you should trust this piece of media, it's just giving you basic objective facts about how it came to be. And we think that this is, we were sort of talking about this earlier, this is the sort of lofty ambition of trying to restore trust in media in the longer term. So I'm just going to talk through what I mean by provenance, where we are now, and the road to adoption, and why it's so exciting to have the opportunity to come and talk to this audience. So if we think about provenance, it's sort of a term that's been around since, if we think about pieces of artwork and figuring out who had created that piece of artwork, maybe who had owned it beforehand. And so we sort of take this concept and think about digital content provenance is really a ground truth about how an asset was made, altered, and delivered. And so this is across all different types of media. So if you think about this, sort of from the detection side of things, this is using technology. So instead of guessing what is false, we can prove what's true. So this is something that would be for those content creators that want to be transparent about the work, to show how they have created something. It's not for bad actors, but essentially, if you could prove what's true, we've got a baseline about media content, and we can start to have a discussion and a debate. So this is quite a little complicated, well, not complicated for this audience. I should disclose that I'm not a technologist. This is really a workflow for images. So if we take straight from creation, so think about this being a camera manufacturer, smartphone would be able to have this type of technology on the glass of the camera. So you take a picture, be able to put things like when it was created, by the date, who it was created by. You'd then export this into an editing software such as Photoshop, but by all means, this could be in it's not proprietary software to Adobe at all, where you could then add extra cryptographic metadata around additional edits that were made and perhaps the name of the creator and editor there. Then go to a publisher, so maybe the BBC, and you would be able to add another layer of metadata on there around the review and who it was published by. And then let's go to the sharing, and so that would be a social media platform or others where you would then be able to see where it had been delivered. So you as a consumer would be able to see a kind of the sort of layers of different content provenance within that image. So in terms of key product concepts around this, we wanted to make this simple for creators and audiences to capture and publish this provenance. So for example, and which is why it's so important to speak to sort of the audience today, is that we don't want this to be a separate piece of software that you have to go out of your existing workflows for. This is something that should be really embedded within that, and this is why we want an open technical standard. And then really to make sure that this is intuitive and expected for consumers. So we're a long way off this at the moment, but in terms of, you can imagine that you're scrolling your social media feed and you want to understand who's created that content and understand some of the metadata behind it. We need to make sure that the user experience of that is optimal. So what does this mean for audio? So in terms of the intent is for this technology to support all audio codec. It does support some now. And the ambition is for native listening experiences to have the CAI UX within there. And this is something we'd really like to talk to this audience about. Just a few other guiding principles around CAI. I will not go through all of them, but just pull out a couple here around interoperability. So this is software technology that we want in hardware, software, in all different places, and for that to be interoperable and to fit within existing workflows, as I said. So I don't often do this slide. As I say, I'm not the technologist, but Anne said that you would like to get into some detail here. So on the left-hand side is the open technical specification code there. And what it does is in terms of having a manifest. So you'll be able to capture assertions about the media, associate things like the creator's identity or an organization such as the publisher. And this is cryptographically bound to the media and signed. And so if an image has, or if a piece of media has a manifest, you can be certain in terms of understanding where it's come from and that it's not been altered. So where are we now? So this really started in 2019 as just a concept of, is this something that we could find a technical solution to? Since then, we've had technical white papers, we've had prototypes in hardware and software, we've had a standards organization founded, we have and we've also embedded it within Adobe's own products, kind of taking the lead here. And we've got over 800 members. Call out in particular the BBC on here, and a number of the media publishers on the right-hand side. And then we have more of our technology partners on the left there, or sorry, on the right, who are also sort of taking steps to think about this. Now, as I said, we wanted this open technical standard to be an open technical standard. So back in early 2021, the Coalition for Content Provenance and Authenticity, the C2PA, was founded under the Linux Foundation. And the group of companies here are on the steering committee for this independent standards organization. And I sort of compare it a little bit to how we got the vaccine rollout so quickly. If any of you that work in standards work, to be able to have a 1.0 specification published within a year is truly remarkable. And I think it just is a testament of the companies wanting to come together to really address this issue. So that standard is out. As I say, it's applicable to images, audio, and video. So these are lots of sort of different things of which organisation's doing which, and I think it's really important to get in your heads of the C2PA, so the standards body, really is the architect with the blueprint to kind of show how this technology can be used, and then the CAI is really those different companies taking that code, taking that blueprint, and thinking about how it would work within the construction of their own businesses, etc. I wanted to also bring your attention to this. Some of the people in this audience may have also heard of Project Origin, which is something that's led by the BBC. And very much we collaborate with Laura Ellis. If you know her from the R&D team, I know that there's a number of her colleagues in the audience today. And so really, if you think about the CAI as really a creator ecosystem in the widest sense, and then Project Origin is really focused on the news media ecosystem, but they're all kind of interrelated, and the technical specification sort of links us all together. As I said, Adobe has been taking really the lead on this, and one of the ways that we've done this is publishing some open source toolkit that was published in June. This is available on the CAI website. It's Rust SDK, and this is available for free. We've had thousands and thousands of downloads from different developers thinking about how to use this technology within the work that they're doing, and encourage you to take a look. So in terms of examples to walk you through, this is possibly my favorite one. And this is a project called 78 Days, which was done between Reuters and the Starling Lab. And what happened was we had a Reuters journalist who had a CAI-enabled phone, a camera, and they took documented a whole bunch of photographs between the US presidential election in 2020 and the inauguration. So we obviously had no idea what was going to actually happen in that time. But if you can cast your mind back to think that there is now a canon of photography which has authenticated images, which shows how they have been edited and altered, and where they were at a particular time, you can really see that that is a really powerful way of having authenticated content for such significant historical times. This is another really exciting announcement that we had last month. So camera manufacturers Leica and Nikon have taken the C2PA open specification, and they took the Adobe open source tooling, and pretty much without much oversight from anyone, certainly at our end, have integrated prototypes of the CAI technology within these two cameras, and they were on exhibition at our conference last month. And we're expecting that both Leica and Nikon will be launching cameras next year with this technology embedded. So this isn't just something that sits within software, it is actually interoperable, and it's quite literally that we have this example now. As I mentioned, Adobe has implemented the C2PA standard within Photoshop, our kind of flagship product. And if you can bear with me, I'm going to play you a demo of how the technology works.
I'm going to show you a live demonstration of how anyone can secure their image's attribution and history data with Content Credentials Beta in Adobe Photoshop. Let's start by opening this photo I downloaded from Adobe Stock. Before I start editing, I want to enable Content Credentials to make sure I have a complete record of edit activity. When I click this blue button to enable, you can see the attribution information I can include with my image. We can also preview that data as it will appear once the image is exported. So you can see that I can decide to share information about my name as it appears in my Adobe profile, and any connected accounts that help connect me to my content, and add a layer of identity reference for people viewing my work. I can also choose to include edits and activities based on actions taken. These are high-level categories of actions that give my audience a sense of how this image came to be. You can also see a preview of the image that I brought into this document. So if I bring another photo in to remix this together, you'll see that appear here too. Let me go ahead and close this and move that out of the way and actually show you what that looks like. So I'm going to place another embedded image that I downloaded from Adobe Stock of a shark on a white background. I'm going to go ahead and select that background, invert it to create a layer mask, and move this guy out of the way so it looks like he is swimming next to the float. I'll also bring the transparency down a little bit so it looks more convincingly underwater. And if we open up our content credentials one more time, you can see the types of high-level actions that have been recorded, from color adjustments related to the change in transparency, combining them using the layer mask, and moving the shark, which was a result of size and position adjustments. I also have my two ingredients reflected below. So let's go ahead and actually export this image from Export As. I can select Publish to Content Credentials Cloud. Content Credentials Cloud is a public persistent storage for attribution and history data. Publishing to this cloud will help keep my file size smaller and make content credentials more resilient. So if my attribution data is ever stripped from my image, I can recover it through our Verify website. Of course, I can always select none if I don't want to include attribution information at this time. But let's go ahead and export. I'm going to save this into my demo folder, and we'll call it swimming pool. Now, if I go back to the panel menu, we can open up Verify and select the image. So Verify is a way to inspect any image's content credentials. I can see an overview of the ingredients that make up this image. I can also inspect individual ingredients and see links back to where they came from, so my audience can decide to license this image themselves. I can even conduct a visual comparison to see exactly how things change over time. Now, if I take a screenshot of this image and drop it here, you can see I no longer have my content credentials. However, because I published this to the Content Credentials Cloud, I can find possible matches by running a visual similarity search. And here it is, my original search results. So now I know my data is always recoverable. That's the capture, edit, publish workflow to establish provenance trails from the Content Authenticity Initiative.
Okay, thanks. And thanks for getting the baby shark earworm in our heads now as well. So you can use this QR code to learn a little bit more about how that works. And these are the websites for the Content Authenticity Initiative. But if we think about the road to adoption, of really embedding and thinking about having these standards across the whole sort of media ecosystem, it's really going to require camera manufacturers, mobile phones, et cetera, and including audio and radio. And that's why we really are sort of interested in thinking about the audio use cases and workflows that would be needed to have digital content provenance within the creations. So just thanks so much for having us today. I hope that sort of obviously we started off with Ukraine, thinking about sort of how the importance of having trusted media from such a difficult conflict. We've obviously seen the innovation that the BBC have had with their R&D. Hopefully this sort of can give you some inspiring ideas about where technology can take us in the next form. And we have Respeecher later, and Respeecher is one of members of the CAI as well. And so thinking about how these different types of really breaking technology or sort of bleeding edge technology can, how we can think about ensuring that we still have trust in media. So you can all get involved. You can join I know that there was no selling, but it's free to join. So if you want to get involved, you can get help with prototype support, and there's different community events, etc. And thanks for your time.